What is the crack, everyone? Okay, so first things first, I want to say thank you so much for the positive feedback that I got on my last two videos. It honestly means a lot because there's a lot of time goes into planning those videos out, editing those videos and then getting it out there. So thank you again, and hopefully today's video is no different. I'm going to take you through my lower body warm-up and mobility session that I do each and every single time that I do a lower body workout. So it's going to consist of 3 parts. The first one is going to be a general warm-up with some light cardio. After that, we're going to get into dynamic stretches and foam rolling to increase the range of motion around the certain joints, and then we're going to finish with progressive loading. Basically, progressive loading means how you work up to your first working set within your first exercise. So for me today, it's a squat. So how I'm going to progress up to my first working set so I'm not shocking my body. And everything is centered around 2 things: to promote good form, get your muscles ready, and to prevent injury. So that is the main thing with warm-ups. Obviously, longevity of training is something that you should think about, and you can't make progress if you're not in the gym to train. So things like this will help in the long term, and it's something that hopefully you can get a value out of today and include within your own sessions. So I'll check in with you at the gym, and hopefully you can get something out of this.
I said I'm in love song. She got me up all night, I'd like me. I said I'm in love. Got me up all night, I'd like me. I said I'm in love song. She got me up all night, I'd like me. I said I'm in love.
Hey everyone, so I'm back just with a quick informative voiceover of my warm-up. So we're starting off here with some cardio on the cross trainer, and all I'm going to be doing here is between 5 to 10 minutes of light cardio. Again, trying to achieve a target heart rate for myself around 55 to 65%. So for me, that's 110 to 130 beats per minute. And again, it differs for everyone depending on their age and exercise level. So you can use that to go off each time when you're trying to warm up. So what I would suggest doing is picking a cardiovascular machine that first of all works your lower body, and secondly the one that you enjoy. So for me it's a cross trainer, and that is why I stick with that. And the main reason why you actually start with light cardio is to increase your overall body's temperature. So by doing this, you will increase the blood flow to the working muscles. That then will allow for more flexibility to occur in those actual muscles. You imagine like a car when you're starting it up. You have to warm the car up, warm the engine up before it can actually get going to its maximum speed. It's the same with our bodies. We'll have to warm them up in the proper way before we can expect high standards within our training. And with basic light cardio like this, I find that it increases my mental alertness. So before I get into my actual session, I'm more mentally ready to go with the right frame of mind, as opposed to just coming in the door and getting into the first set or the first warm-up set. So for me, this sets me up correctly, ready to go. And just before I get into my dynamic stretches, I'm going to be putting on my weightlifting shoes. All this does is promote good form within my squat, elevate my heel so I can get a bit more depth with better form. So we'll get into our mobility work now, and we're going to start off with the first exercise is a goblet squat and hold. This is used with a kettlebell here. You focus on pushing your elbows against your knees to achieve a stretch within your hips, and mainly here you're trying to maintain a straight back. So you'll see from the side position what I mean. So when you're doing this, think elbows against knees and upper back straight. And again, if you don't have a kettlebell, any other weight can be used in order to front load. So next I'll use a dumbbell and achieve the same position, just focusing on again elbows against knees and back straight. So the next exercise that I get into here is known as a step through, and this basically involves bringing your foot up to the same hand and repeating on both sides. Again, the main focus with this is to mobilize the hip joint, and the hip being such a major joint within the body, you want to focus a lot of time on this, particularly within a lower body session, in order to mobilize it as much as possible before you get into a lower body exercise. Next, you will see me into an exercise that involves making circles with your hip in order to bring it through a greater range of motion. Just imagine each and every single time you do this, you're trying to draw a bigger circle with your hip than the previous. So it just involves, again, greater ranges of motion about the hip. The next exercise is known as a band assisted straight leg raise. So this just increases hamstring flexibility and mobility again around the hip joint before you get into a lower body exercise. However, you don't actually need the band, you can just use your own body to do exactly the same exercise and bringing the hamstring through that similar range of motion. Next is just another variation of this straight leg raise, particularly focusing on the lower hamstring here. So again, just hand behind the knee, keep your toe pointed towards your head, and then just extend towards the ceiling. So the next exercise I get into was sideline hip abduction, and the main focus with this was glute activation. So all this involves is keeping your hip, knee and ankle in line and raising your foot towards the ceiling and feeling a contraction towards your glute at the side of the hip. So the main reason we do glute activation work is to get the glute muscles firing before we get into a lower body exercise, just due to the fact that they're such a large muscle group and you want to get them used optimally. The next exercise was banded lateral walks, and again this involves this glute activation. So sitting into a quarter squat, keeping the tension on the band and feeling a contraction through the glutes at the side of the hip. The next exercise was wall ankle mobilizations, and this basically involves keeping your heel flat on the floor while pushing your knee as far towards the wall as possible while maintaining the stretch through the ankle. The basis behind the ankle wall mobilizations is to basically mobilize the ankle joint. So again, you need that mobilization around the ankle when you're squatting, for example, in order to push your knee over your toe to achieve good depth within a squat. So all I did was repeat this both sides until I achieved a bit more range of motion around the ankle joint. Next, I got into thoracic spine mobilizations, which is basically head touches off the floor from the foam rolling position. So you want to keep this in your upper back and focus on the extension through your upper back. I then got into some general foam rolling, which just basically involved loosening up any major muscle groups within my body and focusing anywhere particularly within my body that I found that I was tight. So I started with my back and then moved on to my calves, hamstrings, glutes and quadriceps, and just basically foam rolling throughout my body. If I found a particular area that was tight or sore, I would just spend a wee bit longer on that until the pain went from around maybe a 6 or 7 to around a 2 or 3, and I just repeated this on both sides throughout my body. I then just finished this part of the warm-up with some stretching that I was particularly tight within, which is my adductors, so I just spent a little bit longer just stretching these out, holding it for around 5 to 10 seconds on each stretch. So the final aspect of our warm-up is the progressive loading. So this just involves slowly building up till we get to our first working set. I just started here with a bar, a light weight for around 10 to 12 reps, focusing on the movement pattern and getting everything dialed in before the weight was added to the bar. The next part of the warm-up focused on progressive loading in a percentage-based manner. So for here I started with 30% of my 1 rep max and I worked for a total of 5 reps. If you're not necessarily sure what your 1 rep max will be on your lower body lift to begin with, just estimate it and go from there and see what feels comfortable to warm up within the sets. Again, warm-up sets are there just again to promote good form and get the body ready for what you're about to get into. You don't want to tire yourself out too much before you get into your first working sets. The next set I focused on 50% of my 1 rep max and performed a total of 4 repetitions. Then I calculated 60% of my 1 rep max and worked off a total of 3 reps. Again, form is the main aspect that I'm focusing on here, taking each rep as if it was the heavy set that I was about to work with, and just again get my muscles ready and built up in the proper way. Then I performed 70% for a total of 2 repetitions. So last warm-up set, I worked at a percentage of 75% of my 1 rep max, and again I am just pretending this is the heavy working set, taking my 1 rep here, nice and slow and controlled, and again proper form throughout.
There we have it. That is my lower body session finished after I completed my lower body warm-up mobility. Hopefully you got a bit of value out of this video like it did in the last one. I just focused this on a particular warm-up for a lower body session. So if you liked the video, I would appreciate a thumbs up or subscribe, and it'll just let me know if you're enjoying these types of videos. Again, even a comment, let me know whether you want to see like an upper body focus warm-up for the next video. But again, thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.
She got me up all night, down and up with these love songs. She got me up all night.